Hey everyone, welcome to the Rugger. My name is Nate. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the rugby coming up, about the rugby that just passed, and some other miscellaneous rugby news. So, just talk about the URC round. I'm not going to go into too much of a dive and just go over the scores for the Irish provinces. Leinster actually lost to Cardiff away by 1 point, 8 points for Cardiff and 7 points for Leinster. So, it was the first time in a while Leinster have lost, but it's good for Welsh fans to show that there is some, Welsh clubs that are still performing very high. Cardiff is still very high. It's in the top four at the moment on the URC table. So if they maintain this momentum, this good run of games, they'll end up having a home quarterfinal knockout game. So it's good to see that, if you're a Welsh fan, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a bit of light left at the end of the tunnel with a high performing club like Cardiff. So that's, congrats to them. The game of the weekend, just the weekend gone on Saturday, was definitely Connacht against the Glasgow Warriors. It was a home game in the Dexcom, and Connacht won 15 points to 10 just in the last, I suppose, dying embers of the game, getting a try over. And you got to be happy for Connacht fans everywhere because that was a long time coming. They had a lot of games this season where they're very close against, top performing teams in the URC, but just kept kind of bottling it for the last 20 minutes, for the second half, for the very end. So it seems, great for them to get such a win, and especially in the Dexcom. Because when you have a new stadium like the Dexcom that's just been done up and it does look brilliant, I'm looking forward to going to a game there. You need that kind of flagship game to kind of put it on the map a bit. It's kind of like to christen it a bit, to have a really good win like that, because Glasgow Warriors are at the top of the table. Now, to be fair, they didn't have their star players. Nobody did. But because there is a smaller contingent of Connacht players in the Irish squad, you could say Connacht had a bit of advantage that way. So it's still a very high accolade to beat a team that is number one on the URC table. It's going to be, I think it'll put a real well needed pep in their step. Connacht be really confident now, and if they win a couple more games and certain results go a particular way, which wouldn't be impossible, they could break the top eight and end up for one of the playoff games if they maintain. If you look at their performance over, let's say, April, they can keep up good performances during the month of April because the year is already flying by quite fast. Hopefully, they will be able to break the eight and get a playoff game. I think if they had just were able to make even a playoff game, would be great for Connacht Rugby, because they've been very up and down lately. But that was definitely it's just great to watch, even as I suppose I'm a 25% Connacht fan anyway. So yeah, I was delighted for them. Then the Munster game against Zebra, that was a home game in Thomond Park. 21 points to 7. You think that'd be a good outcome, but as a Munster fan, I was disappointed they didn't get that bonus points. Zebra are one of the lowest ranked teams at the moment in the URC, so I was a bit disappointed with that one. And then you had Ospreys against Ulster, an away game for Ulster, which they lost. So Ospreys, another Welsh club that did well, 21 points to 10. And they had gotten some Ulster players back from the Irish squad, so it was still a decent Ulster team. So good news for Welsh clubs. Welsh clubs kind of had a couple of the Irish provinces on the weekend. So 2 wins for 2 Irish provinces and 2 losses for the other two. So up and down. But it's a weird week anyway because it doesn't feel like a real round of URC because the Six Nations is going on in the background. It's nearly like you're taking a breather yourself. And we had that kind of, they call it a fallow week, where you kind of just, you chill out as a rugby player and get a bit of downtime. It's very intense playing these games 3 weeks in a row. So it's important to get that break. But even as a fan, you feel like you're taking a break because these games can be really intense. Even the Ireland-England game felt like you needed a bit of a recovery period from the adrenaline, from the excitement from that game. So it was good to get that. But now we're right back into it. So this coming weekend, we've got a Friday night light game for Ireland. Wales are coming to town to the Aviva Stadium, which is great. We'd really like to see those home games. It feels like it hasn't had a home game forever for Irish fans. So they are playing Wales tomorrow evening. Friday evening at 8:10. It's going to be a 5-3 split. I'm going to go through just the squad that was picked. Would you say it's an experimental squad? Yeah, I guess. I've seen much more experimental squads from the likes of South Africa or France. But for Ireland, who are historically conservative, it's still a nice mix of players that they have. And I've put a little Ulster hype banner here just to acknowledge that there are 7 Ulster players in this 23-man squad, 5 on the starting 15. So that's a third of the first 15 players are Ulstermen, which is great. This is what we like to see because the Ulster guys have been playing so well this season. So delighted for them. It's like a success story left, right, and centre for these Ulster players. And they are making the team tick better. I think that English game, you can get better suppose hindsight now with that English game. A lot of people are still saying and played terribly. Let's not go get ahead of ourselves, but still Ireland did play fantastic as well. But you can see the influence and the effect that the Ulster players had was instrumental. Players like Stu McCluskey and Rob Alacombe, to name a couple. So I'm just going to go through the people that are picked anyway. So for our front row, we've got Tom O'Toole, another Ulsterman. He is, usually he's regularly a tight head, but he's kind of been, I suppose, experimented as well as a loose head because of the loose head crisis in depth at the moment. He has been picked for loose head starting. And then on the bench for him is Michael Milne from Munster, who I thought had a great game against France when in the first round. He scored a try, on his first game. So he, it's definitely, I think, a bit delayed. I think he should have been on the squad earlier than the 4th round after that performance, but it was off the bench, so hard to tell sometimes, but great that he's getting another chance off the bench. And then for hooker, Dan Sheehan is taking a break this week. I think I heard a couple of places that he could have been injured, but I don't think officially they've said that. Hopefully he's not, because we need him really nice and fit for that Scotland game for the last round. So we've got Ronan Kelleher filling in, who's another highly capable hooker, and Tom Stewart from Ulster, who's had a cracking season as well. Now he put an asterisk to him because it's his first start. He has played for Ireland before. His first Six Nations game, I should say. So he has played for Ireland before, but this is his first Six Nations. So congrats to him. And then we've got Tyke Furlong for tight head, and then Clarkson on the bench as well. So that's the front row. For our locks, we've got James Ryan and Tyke Byrne. Joe McCarthy on the bench, great player to have on the bench to come off. And then for our back row, we've got really nice, comfortable looking back row. Jack Conan, Caelan Doris, and then Nick Timoney. Now this is Nick's first game, starting for Ireland. So another congrats to him too, with Josh Van der Fleer on the bench. So again, another great player to come off the bench. For fly half, we've got Jack Crowley. So from Jack Crowley, still, are we still talking about the 10 a little bit? Maybe. I'm not surprised Sam Brenegast is nowhere near this squad because he does need to take time off. But I think another thing people were talking about for Jack Crowley, just in regards to the England game, was, he didn't play amazing. He didn't set the world on fire, but he had really good management. And I think it was an example to show that when a fly half is able to not make himself the game, not make himself define the game, and just stand back and let his team play while just subtly pulling the strings and directing. I thought he did such a masterclass job of that. And that's what you need sometimes. So really it kind of brings into question, should we be one of those teams that doesn't obsess over the 10 position? Because you look at a team like France, who have good number 10s, absolutely. But Antoine Dupont is, he's the game maker, he's the playmaker, he's the ringmaster of that team. So when you look the way Jameson Gibson Park played, should we not be copying that schematic as well? Would that not suit Ireland better? And then really just push this nonsense 10 debate into the background and just let them play their game? I think so. I think it's worth a trial. If we just center our game more about Gibson Park, I think it just worked like a treat against England. So I think we should really consider that as an option. So anyway, that's Crowley. He's playing fly half. Best of luck to him. And then Kieran Frawley is on the bench. He's a utility back, so he can cover a few different positions, but it's probable that he will be covering Jack Crowley with 10 minutes to go, 20 minutes to go, depending on what happens. Man of the match from last game, Jameson Gibson Park is going to be playing a scrum half. Then I'm delighted with this. Nathan Doak, the scrum half from Ulster, who has been good for a while now, and I think should have been on the team starting even off the bench 6 months ago. For the summer tour, for the November tour, or whatever. He's a brilliant scrum half for Ulster. And he's a different scrum half. He's not like JMO or Craig Casey in that he's, he seems shorter than the other guys. He's a really big player, really tall guy, really like broad. He's kind of like from the Conor Murray class of scrum halves. So he had something a little bit different, which is exciting, and he nails his kicks. If you look at how he's been kicking, he kicks penalties for Ulster. Like, he's the kicking guy. And there is a gap there for kicking. When you look at Sam Prendergast, when you look at Jack Crowley, they miss kicks. They're not having a good season for their conversions or penalties. And I've seen them do much better in the past, but just lately they are really lacking in that. So it's great to have someone like Nathan Doak who can test out, the test arena and just get comfortable, because really I think with the proper management and the proper exposure, this guy should be on the World Cup squad in 18 months, because you need that third scrum half bubbling away in the background. It's great to say we've got JMO and Craig Casey. Yes, they're very good scrum halves, especially Jameson. But, you need those options. And the World Cup can be a trying tournament. So you need someone. Caelan Blade he's not going to work out. I think he's too old to be getting any more games. I think Nathan Doak is the perfect age. He's mid-20s. He just looks hungry for it. So I really hope they stick with this guy and give him as many chances as possible over the next 18 months. So those are the scrum halves. And then we have the inside centre, Big Stuart McCluskey. Player of the tournament, probably, at least for an Irish fan. He has been great every game. He has not disappointed. He's playing the tournament of his career at the moment. So we want to see that continuing. So best of luck to Stu. And then Gary Ringrose backing him up outside centre. And then we've got Tom Farrell on the bench. I put an asterisk next to him as well, because it's his first Six Nations game. So good luck to him. So then we've got the wingers. Jacob Stockdale's left winger, James Lowe, is out injured, unfortunately. I think for the rest of the tournament, which is a bit of a bummer. But Jacob Stockdale, he's getting another chance. I feel like this could be his last chance. Remember, 8 years ago, he had that brilliant tournament back in 2018 where he was named player of the tournament, and he just still is not firing. He didn't play great against France. Nobody on the Irish team did, to be fair. So I don't think that's really fair on him. But it just seems like he's running out of opportunities to do a second audition for Andy Farrell, because there are wingers, there are wingers knocking on the door. I think we're in good health for wingers at the moment. When you have people like Tommy O'Brien that didn't even make the squad, people were like, what's going on there? Because he played great against England. But I do think Farrell just wants to give Jacob another chance. He has been playing well lately. He must be doing well in training. And I do think he deserves another chance. Just hope the game goes well, because you can never have enough really good left wingers. So we'll see how he gets on. Right winger, Bobby B, Robert Balakoon, unchanged from last time. Great player. Probably could have gotten player of the match last week or 2 weeks ago if Gibson Park hadn't played so amazing. But he was just on fire as well. Great for the high ball. Just all over the place. Every kind of facet of the game, whether it was running and passing or scoring, he was just there. He was on it. And he's just a really tall guy. He just looks like he's perfect for the high game right now. He's just winning those balls in the air. So, yeah, delighted. Hope that he continues to have a great season, great tournament as well. And then for fullback, we've got Jamie Osborne, who also played great in the England game. So, again, I think that England game, you look back at it, I've watched it a few times now. It's a great game to rewatch. You notice something new every time, because there was so much going on. But really, it was just hard to really pick someone out that was playing bad. The only person I can think of that was a bit invisible in that game against England was Gary Ringrose. But that's really, splitting hairs, and I don't think that's fair, to be honest. But just the standard was so high from an Irish perspective. So that is the squad. It's a really nice mix. I'm loving this, and the fact that, especially for the Ulster guys, they just seem to be all over the field here. You've got Ulster guys in the front row. You've got Ulster guys in the back row. Scrum half, centres. Both wingers are Ulster guys. So, yeah, they're really just putting in a hell of a shift, this Six Nations. And a long way to continue. I think there's other Ulster guys that we need to consider. Jude Postlewaite, I keep thinking about this guy. Just really want him to get a crack at the squad. He's a young guy. Zach Ward, Breen Ward, he's been in camp, this entire Six Nations. Was disappointed. Doesn't seem like he's going to get a chance now. But he is definitely a guy to watch. Just don't see him being used for the Scotland game, because the stakes will be so high. So that's the Irish game. Good luck to Ireland. I feel like it's a very highly likely win for Ireland. Everybody is saying, especially after that performance against England, their tails are going to be up. Your confidence is going to be brimming. You talk about England, the team that was nodded to win this and then fell apart dramatically. Scotland lost, Ireland lost. There's no chance for them now, really, unless it's a miracle. So they're going to be fuming. But Ireland, you get this record margin win and number of points scored in Twickenham. You got to feel like $1 million after that. So they will be riding high after this. In fact, I'd say they would have wanted to have a crack at Wales right after, the week after that game. They would have been so kind of, juiced up. So, yeah, we'll see. I just can't see Wales, even after that hopeful game against Scotland. They did nearly win against Scotland, to be fair. They kind of, I think with 5 minutes to go, they just kind of let it fall apart a bit. But I just can't see them threatening Ireland. Maybe for the first half for a while, but I just think Ireland are going to come roaring out the blocks because they know this is the game. If by some miracle France lose a game or two and it comes down to points difference, this is the game Ireland need to cash in on. They need to be putting like 40 points, 50 points on Wales. I mean, when you look at it, they scored 42 points against England and England demolished Wales in their opening round. So, I know it's hard to kind of gauge sometimes. Every week is different, but you would expect Ireland to be really putting on a number, especially when it's a home game. It's going to be tons of Irish fans totally, going bananas because of what happened with the England game. They're going to be, it's going to be extra zeal out there. Even for the training, there was a training day where people could come from, the public out to the stadium. I think it was on Monday this week. Loads of supporters out there. And that's all in response to the game against England. You went over you got your supporters all through thick and thin, but then you got your bandwagon fans that come out of the woodwork with the result like England. So, yeah, we'll see. I believe it's also the first game to have commentary in Irish, which is interesting. My Irish is pretty bad, but it's always great to see that it's being promoted that way. And I might try and flick it on for 10 minutes and see if I can comprehend what they're talking about. Maybe not. So, yeah, that's the Irish game. So moving on then from that, you got Scotland. That's Friday tomorrow. Then on Saturday, you're looking like a kind of a mini Super Saturday, really, depending how the results go. You got Scotland against France, and that's in Murrayfield. Everyone's praying to God that Scotland do a number on France because they are known to do that. If there's a shock to see coming, it's a Scotland game. So, I think they have had France's number on a number of occasions in the past 5 years. Be great to see them beat France, just to make the last week interesting, to make it a real Super Saturday final finale for everybody, to really have 3 teams in it, Scotland, Ireland and France. Be a terrific way to end it. I wouldn't even mind if France won it then, but just give us one more week of hope. So that's on at 2:10 p.m. At home in Murrayfield. Murrayfield fans are great. It's always such a hostile ground. When you ever see Ireland playing Murrayfield, they're like it's a whole different game. Peter O'Mahony on one of his last games was booed off in Murrayfield by the fans because they hated him so much. He said it was such a compliment to him. So they're just always up for it. They're just, really overzealous fans. They're terrific. So it's always a great atmosphere. There's always this very tense kind of atmosphere in Murrayfield. So really hope both teams bring it and it's a good game. But then another game that could be really good is the Italy versus England game. That is going to be in Rome in the Stadio Olimpico, really great stadium in the city. That's at 4:40 p.m. on Saturday. And you got to think, I saw a recent poll done on one of the YouTube pundit guys' channel, and it was 64% people thinking Italy would win. Now, that's just the average Joe Rugby fan like me, but still, either people want Italy to win or they actually do believe they can. It does seem like this is their opportunity to beat England. England are having problems. A lot of people calling for Steve Borthwick's head, the coach, after that game against Ireland. It was a seismic kind of game. You could just feel like this got the attention of the entire rugby world because England were so bad. So he is under enormous pressure to win this game, and that pressure can compound and make things even worse. He's picked a really totally rotated squad. He's punished a lot of his players from that game against Ireland. So it's a really shaken up squad. The Italy squad, I haven't had a look at, but I'm going to assume they're going to be using the biggest hitters that they have, and their squad is looking great. They nearly beat Ireland in the Aviva, and they beat Scotland. this is an opportunity for them to get more points on the board, and it's a home game. And again, just like Scotland, Italian supporters, they're going to be really up for it. So I'm really looking forward to that. This could be three for three. This could be three really entertaining games. So it's a great kind of penultimate round. So we'll see how they both get on. And also there's going to be the under-20 Six Nations game on the evening, 7:45 between Ireland and Wales. That could be worth watching, especially the fact that they beat England the night before the senior team beat England. Andy Farrell even had words with the under-20s Irish team just to say, thanks, you motivated us and congrats and keep it up. So be looking forward to seeing that too. The under-20s Six Nations is underrated. There can be some really great games there. So yeah, those are the games. And the other news, Dave Rennie has been selected for the All Blacks coach. New Zealand had fired Scott Robinson a month ago, and there had been a period of chaos and turmoil that always comes with that. But Dave Rennie has been selected. He's a New Zealander. I think it's always going to be a New Zealander when you're coaching the All Blacks. That's what they like to do. They like to bring in their own guys. So he has been picked. So he's got a couple of months now to get stuck in and get the squad humming again, because their season will be starting during the summer. So best of luck to Dave Rennie. I actually like that guy. He used to coach Australia back a few years back, right before the World Cup. And I think he got a really raw deal. He was fired because Australia just were not taking off. They weren't there was close games against Ireland, close games against New Zealand. And Dave Rennie was behind the scenes. And I think if they'd stuck with them, they would have had a much better World Cup in 2023. I think they would have gotten to the quarterfinals. I think they could have even gotten to the semifinals because their team was looking great. But then, of course, Eddie Jones took over and just obliterated any chance of Australia recovering, which was terrible. So since then, he's been coaching in Japan, and now he has gotten the nod. So he will be the new All Blacks coach. So it's exciting to see what will happen there. There were Saracen rumours about Andy Farrell in the run-up to the England game. And he did address it in a press conference recently that whether or not he was going to be coaching Saracens, the English Premiership team, club rugby, after his tenure in Ireland was over after the World Cup in 2027. And he just said it was just he kind of dismissed it, but you never know. His contract is up. He says he will be talking to the IRFU about the future. I think really, especially if he breaks that quarterfinal curse next year, we'd want to keep him. So yeah, the jury is still out on that, but I think, whatever happens with Andy Farrell, Godspeed. He's done quite enough for Ireland, really, in the time that he has been spent here. Well, I think he likes Ireland. I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. I think he's too much in love with the country, but we'll see. The Six Nations Cup was also burned last week in a van fire. Really bizarre. I don't know in what country. It gets transported around between all these games. And you kind of think, where is it now kind of thing? But it was burnt accidentally. So what they've done is they've had a faux kind of cup created for the remainder of the tournament, because you can't just create this cup out of thin air. It takes time. So they're going to be working on that as a side quest for the next Six Nations. So yeah, thought that was very random, but just goes to show that cup is not easy to make. And then just on the World Cup next year, I know it's 18 months out, but I was curious and I did check online today just about tickets. If you're an Irish fan like me and are thinking about going over, it's not available yet, the tickets. There was a pre-sale period that's done now, so we need to be putting a waiting list on the website for the Rugby World Cup, and they'll email you in May, I believe, this year. And I think the deadline is to June to buy the next kind of tranche of tickets. So if you are thinking of going over, and let's say the probable, hopefully, quarterfinal between Ireland and Argentina, that's going to be on Halloween 2027 in Brisbane. And then let's say odds directly in our favor, if we beat Argentina and get into a semi-final for the first time ever, that will be a week later in Sydney against probably England, by the way it's looking from the groups are done. So if you're looking for, let's say, 10 days of hardcore rugby and going over to Australia, that is your plan. You're going to go to the Argentina game in Brisbane and the England game in Sydney, if everything goes, touch wood, well in Ireland's favour. So yeah, just thought that was interesting to see. The tickets are, depends on what category you're picking for, but the tickets are obviously expensive. But then if you're an Irish person And you look at the tickets, I saw one for $500 for good seats. And if you convert that to euros, it's actually 300 euros. So it's not as bad. The euro is quite strong against the Australian dollar right now. So that's worth taking into account. So you need to start now planning your trip and calling in your buddies that are living in Oz, because there is tens of thousands of Irish people there right now. So it's time to call in those, couch favors. Can I crash at your place kind of thing, and make a plan if you're looking to do it on a tighter budget than others. But it's early days yet. We'll see. I'd say the tickets will go fast, but it's interesting to see what that looks like, locationally, so you can make an easier plan. So before you know it, we will be talking about the World Cup, please God. So yeah, I thought that was just interesting to look up. But that is the rugby going on at the moment. That's what the weekend is looking like. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Who are you going for this week? If you're an Irish fan, do you think it's going to be a total slaughter? Do you think it'll be closer than people are giving it due credit? Do you think France are going to win? Do you think Italy are going to win? Do you think Scotland could provide an upset? Hopefully for everybody else's benefit, but we'll have to wait and see. Looking forward to the games. Thanks. Bye.